from where UP administration said the stones were hurled. There, goaded on by several devotees, Mishra yanked off a green-colored flag. The act was deemed provocative, and the police say that the Hindu devotees were then shot dead by some members of the minority community. This particular devotee, viewers, was shot dead. The killing triggered mayhem on a large scale in Bahraich. Hindus went on a rampage in protest over the perceived overreaction. Curfew was imposed, and the UP police swung into action to control the outbreak of arson and rioting. The facts, viewers, are on your screens. This was an incident that turned very quickly from a procession into a provocation and then into large-scale violence. Viewers, even this morning, there was fresh clash, or at least, viewers, an attempt to create further mayhem. And the clash this time, thankfully, was between the police that enforced the law. Now here is a local police officer with a detailed account of what transpired in Bahraich, viewers. Listen in.
महसी के महाराजगंज क्षेत्र में आज जब एक जुलूस एक मुस्लिम क्षेत्र में से एक मस्जिद के पास से निकल रहा था, वहाँ पे दोनों पक्षों के बीच में कुछ विषय को लेकर तकरार हुई, जिसमें दोनों पक्ष आमने सामने हुए। उसमें आपस में कुछ लोग उत्पात मचाने लगे, जिस घटनाक्रम में एक व्यक्ति को हिंदू पक्ष की तरफ से गोली लगी और बाद में उसकी मृत्यु हो गई। उसी के बाद एक तनाव की स्थिति उत्पन्न हुई, जिससे विभिन्न स्थानों पर जो मूर्ति विसर्जन है उसको रोक दिया गया। जो महाराजगंज में घटना हुई है जिसमें एक व्यक्ति को गोली मारी गई है, उसमें 30 संदिग्ध व्यक्तियों को पुलिस द्वारा ऑलरेडी हिरासत में ले लिया गया है। उसमें मुकदमा पंजीकृत कर लिया गया है और जो मुख्य आरोपी है जो कि भाग गया है, उसकी भी लोकेशन ट्रेस हो गई है। उसको गिरफ्तार करने के लिए टीम्स को डिस्पैच कर दिया गया है।
Now viewers, rather disturbingly, over the last few hours, some have taken to social media to suggest that the clash was triggered by Hindus. In specific, the youth who claimed to top a property owned by Muslims to remove a religious flag, as I just told you. His name is Gopal Mishra, but this account has been deemed selective by the Yogi government. Nonetheless, despite the Yogi government accusing the opposition and its ecosystem of scapegoating a Hindu, the opposition has stuck to its guns, accusing the BJP of planning the riots to consolidate its vote bank ahead of a crucial round of 10 assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. Samajwadi Supremo Akhilesh Yadav has said, and I quote him, "The administration, government and media know why it happened. If I tell you what was being played on those loudspeakers, then government will say something else. But the administration should have at least taken note of what was being played on loudspeakers. Are they insulting anyone? That is a question that should have been asked. What happened is part of a strategy by the government to consolidate its vote bank," unquote. Another India Bloc member, IUML MP, E.T. Muhammad Bashir, came out and said, quote, "Main reason is that government is miserably falling and failing in controlling this kind of thing. On the other hand, because of the wrongdoings of the government, such situations are arising. Government's approach is really instrumental in creating this kind of mistrust between communities," unquote. The BJP has slammed the opposition for providing the communal attackers with a fig leaf with a view to normalize hate against Hindus. UP BJP spokesperson Shalimani Tripathi has come out and said, quote, "This was well planned. The truth cannot be hidden by spreading lies. These illegal relatives of extremists will get a befitting reply," unquote. While the political blame game rages, there is a disquieting frequency with which clashes are being reported from across India, viewers. On the 10th of October 2024 in Gonda in Uttar Pradesh, stone pelting on Durga Puja Pandal took place. On the 10th of October 2024 in Karimganj, Assam, further east, clashes over attempted desecration of Durga idol results in communal clashes. 11th October, a day later in Hyderabad, Telangana, protests after a Durga idol allegedly vandalized. We still don't know, viewers, the exact motives, though it's deemed not a communal incident. 12th October 2024, Kolkata, West Bengal. Muslim mob storms the Durga Pandal and threatens devotees over devotional music. The facts are now before you, and they prompt serious questions. And I will ask them, viewers, did the Yogi administration act negligently and thereby fail to stop the clash? Fundamental question. Can India bloc give proof that BJP is stoking riots by design? This is what is being claimed by the Samajwadi Party Supremo Akhilesh Yadav. Can objections to loud music be expressed by a violent counter-reaction? Are scapegoats being found to justify the violent attack on the procession? Can there be anything called a quote Muslim area unquote in a secular nation? These are some fundamental questions. Let's open this up, viewers. Without ado, let's ask these direct questions to our panelists. And I want to first begin with Tehseen Poonawalla and Sanju Verma. One representing the India bloc point of view and the other, of course, the BJP point of view. Now, Mr. Poonawalla, obviously, this is an extremely sensitive matter and we have to be very, very careful about what we are saying. And therefore, I have strictly stated the facts. I have not in any way imputed motives. But I have to ask you this one question. Fair enough, if in your view, loud DJ music was being played in front of a mosque or an area where Muslims happen to be in dominant numbers according to the police, can the reaction be stone pelting? Can you have violence spreading out from this locality? Can you then have, on the back of provoking the Hindus, an attempt to play victim when unfortunately the community gets enraged? Then there is a shooting. Then there is further violence. I mean, look, if you have a problem with DJ music, tell the police. Look away, file a complaint, act with restraint. What gives anyone the right to throw stones?
Rahul, at the onset, let me begin by offering my most sincere, my deepest, my heartfelt condolences to Sri Ram Gopal Mishra ji's family, his loved ones and his friends. Nobody, Rahul, nobody deserves to be killed. No matter how provocative anything is, you do not deserve to be killed. It is unacceptable, it is undemocratic, it is against the constitution, it is against law and order, it cannot happen. Let me go one step further because you've only stuck to the facts, but I'm going to push the envelope, please allow me. Even if in that DJ music, if there was something provocative, as you rightly said, please complain to the police. The police are duty bound to take action. There's guidelines laid by the Honorable Supreme Court in my case. No one has the right to take law and order into their own hands. But Rahul, we have a couple of fundamental problems and may I come to those. It's not a question of stones being thrown. How are stones gathered? Stones can't, if you and I get into a fight, right? Nobody has stones, right? The stones have to be kept in advance. How are these stones gathered? How was there a weapon? A gun nonetheless. How was that fired? Now these stone pelting incidences, and Rahul, I've been unfortunate to be in several TV debates, including with you, where we've seen these incidences repeating. So when the police is aware that these kind of incidences are repeating, there are by-elections in Uttar Pradesh, where was the intelligence? What was Vrinda Shukla, the SP, doing? I'm taking her name deliberately. She has failed the people of Bahraich in Uttar Pradesh. What was the DM doing? What was the local intelligence doing? For all of this, when you know this is happening, where were the drones? Why couldn't the drones be flown over terrace to see if there were stones that were accumulated? All of this has been a failure of the Uttar Pradesh government, the Uttar Pradesh law and order. And I would expect that Vrinda Shukla, if not charged for incompetence, would at least be transferred, if not suspended. She continues to be SP, so does the DM. And it is appalling. It is appalling. Nothing justifies murder, nothing. But the UP administration has failed we the people, has failed the people of Uttar Pradesh, as is the Chief Minister. I think there are two questions that we need to ask. Why does this happen when there are elections round the corner? Number one. Number two, where were the stones, the intelligence and the weapons coming from? And if this is an intelligence failure, shouldn't the buck stop at the Chief Minister when you know that there are by-elections, you know there have been stone pelting incidences across the country and your law and order keeps on failing time and again? Or is this some sort of a conspiracy to polarize, is what I want to leave to you. And I've seen these posts on social media. It is terrible. Nothing justifies.
No, I appreciate
a
the fact,
and I condemn this.
I appreciate the fact, Mr. Poonawalla, that you have at least condemned the use of violence to settle scores, etc., etc. That's good. But I have to ask you a very quick follow-up question before I bring in Sanju Verma. You said that intelligence agencies have failed. Vrinda Shukla, the local police officer, the SP. Now, are we conveniently scapegoating these individuals? Because you said, why does this always happen around elections? Now, let me tell you, Telangana today, in Secunderabad, problem. In Belgavi, again a problem. West Bengal, another problem. Assam, another problem. Now, these are all 4 different states, no elections taking place there. And 3 of them are ruled by the opposition. No one is asking the chief ministers there to explain, or the city police, constabulary, or even the intelligence to explain why there was an intelligence failure, why hasn't XY police officer stepped down. In fact, let me tell you, the response of the Congress party a few days ago, when journalists like me only reported the facts in regards to another desecration, wanted the chief minister to file cases against the journalist, shoot the messenger. No one said to the chief minister, why is this happening in the first place? Where are you? Where is the police? Why aren't there enough cover around these areas, etc.? So, I mean, again, are we not actually looking to come out and say that, look, this is becoming a disturbing pattern, that one particular community believes that their areas where they are supposedly in large numbers have become no-go grounds, etc., etc. I'm not hearing enough of that.
No, so there are 2 issues to this. One, you started your broadcast saying that can there, in a secular nation like ours, be what is termed as Muslim areas and Hindu areas. I would go a step further and say, are we going to get 370 back into our states and into our cities and into our districts? Can there be Muslim areas and Hindu areas? No, we both are on the same page. But the SP of Bahraich, Vrinda Shukla, saying, oh, it was passing through a Muslim area. I don't understand what this is. Number 2, let me put something out. Let me put another BJP state example. And a lot of friends of mine who are SPs, the SP ranks around my age, so a lot of friends of mine are SP. I'm talking about women SP, IPS officers. In a BJP ruled state, when a God man was arrested for a crime and later on convicted, these women were put on duty, not a leaf moved. That is how SPs work. That is how, if you have a procession going in a state where there are by-elections, where you know stone pelting incidents has happened, there have been other incidences in the country across, if the SP still allows, look Rahul, just answer one fundamental question, how are stones gathered? You and I, Sanju ji, anyone on this panel doesn't have stones in their house, right? So stones have to be gathered, therefore it has to be pre-planned. You know a procession is going to go through that road. What were your constables, your intelligence?
Just want to put it out there.
This is a failure of Yogi Adityanath. And the minute we accept this, this SP should have been kicked out.
Viewers, there have been, as I told you, 4 other incidents and I listed them. No one is asking the chief ministers of those states any questions. There is selective focus here.
I'm not saying
because someone is trying to.
I'm saying it is failure.
Let me bring in Sanju. Let me bring in Sanju Verma. Let me bring her in. Okay, let's open this up. We heard you for a fair amount of time. I gave you enough time. Let me bring in Sanju Verma. Sanju Verma, how do you respond to this? How do you respond to Tehseen Poonawalla, who said this is an intelligence failure, that this is completely an attempt at polarizing as an election is taking place, 10 assembly seats are going for polls. You heard what he said. Respond.
You know, my first point is this. Obviously, condolences to Ram Gopal Mishra's family and his friends. What happened to him is unforgivable, no matter what the provocation. I'll come to the provocation bit later. But my first point is this. You look at the history of post-independent India, right from the Hashimpura riots of 1987 to the Bhagalpur riots of 1989 to the more recent times, 2006 Aligarh riots in Uttar Pradesh, 2008 Dhule riots in Maharashtra, 2010 Deganga riots in North 24 Parganas in West Bengal, 2011 Bharatpur riots in Rajasthan, 2012 Azad Maidan riots in Mumbai, to the 2013 Muzaffarnagar riots. Who was in power at the center? Right from the Aligarh and Dhule riots to the Azad Maidan and Muzaffarnagar riots, it was the incompetent Manmohan Singh / Sonia Gandhi dispensation. So for the Congress official and unofficial spokespersons to sit here on a national television debate and lecture the BJP on how it should do its job is being too clever by half. The third and most important point is this. There is an institutionalization of Hindu phobia. I will come to Uttar Pradesh. I never move away from the uncomfortable truth, and I believe in calling a spade a spade. But let me ask the Congress and the other stakeholders who are united by glue only by their visceral hatred for Narendra Modi. How is it that a Lord Ganesha idol 1 month back actually found its way to a police van? Can you imagine Lord Ganesha being arrested by the Karnataka police? And then look at this shameless excuse saying, oh, we were trying to protect Lord Ganesha's idol because we wanted to ensure safe immersion. Point number 2, barely a few days back at Nampalli in Hyderabad, Durga Puja, Murti, the Pandal, the Mandap, everything desecrated, vandalized. Did you see one iota of regret or remorse from Rahul Gandhi or Priyanka Vadra, who otherwise have an opinion on just about everything under the sun? Okay. This is the same Rahul Gandhi who on the floor of the parliament, if he's not waving the Lal Samvidhan ki kitab, he's talking about Abhay Mudra. Then let me come to point number 3, and more recently, this incident in Bahraich. Now, this reckless allegation by Akhilesh Yadav, ये तो assembly election के जो बाईपोल होंगे, बाई इलेक्शन होंगे, बीजेपी डरी हुई है, डर का माहौल है, इसलिए बीजेपी is trying to spoil the narrative by playing divisive politics. I want to ask Akhilesh Yadav one thing. There's no Samajwadi Party representative on your show, but this is the crux of the debate. Do you remember 2021? There was a 72-year-old man in Ghaziabad. His name was Abdul Samad Saifi. He said, I was not allowed to chant Allahu Akbar, and BJP workers forced me to chant Jai Shri Ram. A proper investigation was conducted by the Yogi Adityanath government, and lo behold, Abdul Samad Saifi, the 72-year-old gentleman, finally agreed that BJP ka to isme haath hi nahi tha. The entire conspiracy was hatched by a senior Samajwadi Party leader called Umaid Pehlwan. Okay. Don't forget the name, Rahul. Umaid Pehlwan hatched the conspiracy to tarnish the image of the incumbent Yogi dispensation. My limited point is this. This is my final point. I want to ask, all well-meaning Muslims.
Need to get
you
out.
say, Narendra Modi ki sarkar to Musalmanon ke khilaf hai. It is not Hindu phobia, but Islamophobia which is ruling the roost.
Okay.
Wait a minute, Tehseen. Okay. My last point. A case has been registered in the Bahraich. Can I just finish, Rahul Shivshankar, please?
Yeah, please.
A case has been registered against 10 people.
I apologize.
A case, Tehseen, can you hold your horses? Thank you. A case has been registered against 10 people in the Bahraich case.
Okay.
The key accused Salman has been arrested, but look at the other 6 who have been identified and yet to be arrested. Abdul Hamid, Sarfaraz, Fahim, Shahir Khan, Nankau Ahmad, Maraf Ali, and there's another one, Matlub Alam. I fail to understand how is it that there are similar sounding names whenever a Durga Puja Pandal is vandalized. I stay in Mumbai, though currently I'm in the US.
Let's one second.
In Baikala, when there's a Muharram procession, 1 minute, when there's a Muharram procession going around, when there's a Muharram procession going around in Baikala, which is, heavily Muslim dominated, हिंदुओं को कहा जाता है कि आपकी दुर्गा पूजा प्रोसेशन coincides with Muharram, आप दुर्गा पूजा प्रोसेशन एक दिन बाद कर लेना.
Okay.
That is how tolerant we are.
Okay. Just 1 second.
Please,
yes, very quickly, Tehseen. Very quickly, because I want to bring in the others also.
Very
please,
quickly. Actually, 2 lines to clarify. Yeah. In fact, even in my city of Pune, today of course I'm in Mumbai, but in my city of Pune, there was a Muslim festival of Prophet Muhammad, and there was the Ganesh Visarjan coming together the same day. The Muslims postponed it by about 5 or 6 days, and this is a BJP ruled state. So I think people want to maintain harmony, but I'll tell you the lies on your show. The DCP of Bangalore, where this incident of Lord Ganesha happened, who himself is a Hindu, has clarified the issue that because there were protests against.
Why should I believe this DCP?
When Ganesh Visarjan.
Why should I believe this DCP?
One second. Now let's not. 1 second, please.
Why should I believe the DCP?
Stop.
I'll take 30 seconds.
Let him
finish.
finish. Okay, I'm going to have to lower everyone's feeders now, please. This is not fair.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll just take 30 seconds. I'll take not more than that.
Yeah,
The DCPs clarified that when protests happened while there was a Visarjan, because nothing should happen to the idol or it shouldn't be desecrated, immediately the police not only kept the idol safely inside the secure area, they also immersed Ganeshji.
Viewers, one second. No, I'm sorry, the state cannot appropriate. One second, please. The state cannot appropriate an idol and decide to do the Visarjan just because it is being in nanny state. That is impossible, viewers. We are a secular democracy. 1 minute, let me just bring it. Let me bring in Dr. Ranganathan. Let's bring in the others, please. I don't want to get, sort of into the weeds of another incident. I'm talking about Bahraich. I've done my research on Bahraich. I'm here to speak about Bahraich. Now, very clearly, Dr. Ranganathan, I have to ask you this question. Look, once again, there's an insinuation that Hindus were sort of G'd up, part of some political plot, machination to go out there and create mayhem. How do you react to this? That they are the provocateurs. Now, whether they have been sort of suborned by a political party or whatever to do it, they are looking for trouble. What is your reaction to this?
Good evening, Rahul. There are two issues here, and both merit going into. The first one is that, as people are saying, that this was provoked. And the fact of the matter is that it was provoked by the people who were stoning this procession. And what happened was that, and these are, the picture is hazy right now, so the facts would come out, I think, once the investigation is complete. But the fact is, after the stone pelting, this man, Hindu, he went up and he replaced the flag with a green one with a Bhagwa one. So the punishment for that, apparently, in this country is that you should be shot 16 times, and after you're shot, you should be stoned. There are hundreds of instances. There is one that happened in Karnataka recently where a temple, the Bhagwa flag was removed and an Islamic flag was put on it. In Ara, Bihar, identical thing was done. From a temple, Bhagwa was removed and Islamic flag. It happens all the time. In fact, if you remember, during COVID, there was a procession march where instead of the Ashok Chakra, you had the Kalma. Did that mean that the perpetrators were to be shot? Were they shot? So is this the punishment now? Number one. Number two, let us stop blaming Hindus by saying they provoked the Muslims by making their religious processions through quote unquote now Muslim areas or near mosques. Rahul, the essence of Azan, which is quote, there is no God but Allah and no one has the right to be worshipped but Allah 4062. Amplified through the loudspeaker 5 times a day, whole year round near a temple is not provocative. But celebrating Ram Navami or Ganesh Chaturthi and singing Bhajman Ramcharan Sukhdai one day in a mosque is. Provocation is subjective. Only violent people are provoked into violence. I can show you many instances where there are a Muslim procession that's chanting Bulaun Ali Ko, convert. And this is happening right in front of a temple. And why don't they apply the same theory to Godhra riots and justify them as reaction to the train burning? There they don't bring this action-reaction theory, do they? And talking of provocation, the very existence of a kafir is provocative. 98.6, 929, 456, 973, 2198, 470, and 100 other verses. So we should cease to exist. Okay. That's the problem. That you are selective, you are applying this provocation theory selectively. When it applies to you, you stay silent. When others do it, others are provoked, you say, oh, this is provocation.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Chaudhary and Mr. Verma. Both are there with us. Now, Mr. Chaudhary, you heard what Dr. Ranganathan said. He says, violent, intolerant people are given to violence. So stop finding scapegoats. Basically, that's what he's saying. Please respond to this. Take responsibility, because I don't see anyone putting their hand up to say, at least in this case, in Bahraich, that the minorities could have reacted with greater equanimity. I'm not hearing that. And that is worrying for me. Because if people don't step up and say this, this is going to repeat itself ad nauseum. Because some people's areas are thought to be inviolable.
No, it's not the question of being inviolable. Every part of India, whether it is a Uttarakhand, the hills, or Himachal, or Jammu and Kashmir, or let's say Mizoram or Bahraich, is easily accessible to me as a Muslim or to Anandji as an atheist or Rahulji as a Hindu. So it doesn't matter, and if anybody has created such areas, it is the doing of the administration of the day, right from Indian independence. But more particularly, after 2014, triggering of a communal riot for the Hindu nationalists have been proving very relatively easy, sometimes hiding behind religious processions and shouting abusive anti-minority slogans, or even a purely private dispute between two or more individuals belonging to different community was all that was needed to trigger off a riot. Even I want to be blunt out here tonight. The state's apparatus one-sided action targeting the minority community, their life and property, and indiscriminate arrest of large number of minority community members would fulfill the objectives of the rioters from the majority community, appearing to take over the role of perpetrators. Why I don't want to repeat this once again? Because the administration is complicit when such type of provocative DJ songs, which are nowhere related to the religious astha of an individual, whether Hindus or Muslims.
In this case,
let me say, the songs that were played, Rahul, let me finish. I will take 10 more seconds, please. Songs that were played, जब मुल्ले काटे जाएंगे तो राम राम चिल्लाएंगे पाकिस्तान जाएंगे. And where was that song being played? In front of those areas.
No, are you talking about this incident? Because, I'm sorry.
We are discussing the Bahraich incident.
No, are you talking about this incident? Bahraich.
Ustake Rasool ki ek hi saza.
Of course,
Sarkar
I
se
am
juda,
talking
sarkar
about
se
the
juda.
Bahraich. Come on,
Talk
please.
about that.
No, one second. Does that mean, no, hang on, just a minute. Does that mean, please don't shout.
Let me finish first.
Does that mean that you whip out, no, hang on. Does that mean that you stone people to death? You whip out a pistol and you shoot somebody 15, 17, 18 times or whatever it is? I mean, does that give you the license? There is an administration, there is a court, there is a PIL. Let me bring in Karan Verma.
No, let me finish. 10 more seconds, Rahul.
No,
10 seconds.
Okay.
10 seconds.
Just 2-3 weeks ago, the same Bahraich was united Hindus, Muslims together in killing the wolves who were manhunting in the Bahraich area. किसकी नजर लग गई बहराइच में कि ये riot को अंजाम देना पड़ा?
No, please.
You have to answer the fundamental question.
All this is rhetorical. I have not heard anyone step up viewers and say that this was a gross overreaction to an alleged provocation. The facts are still not known. I don't know. There are a lot of viewers that are doing the rounds, and if you listen to some of that music, it's not supposedly inflammatory. I can't vouch for this. There are others who are saying, yes, one minute, let me bring in Karan Verma. There are others who are saying that provocative music was played, but still, does that mean that you're going to whip out a gun or you're going to start pelting stones? Viewers, that's the fundamental point. How much of provocation is enough to trigger violence? And in a law-abiding society, should we have people taking the law into their hands? It's a very simple question, Karan Verma. I don't hear their response to that. No one is responding.
So, for Kamru Zaman to say that the action is one-sided, I think if there is anything one-sided, it is a one-sided attack on the Hindu religious processions. 39 this year, 49 last year, and before that touching 50 again. So in the last 3 years, we've had one-sided attacks only on Hindu religious processions. And Rahul, their design has been very clear. Do you forget what happened in Koltar village in Perambur district? When Muslims became a minority, they passed a resolution that any religious procession of idol worshippers offends their sentiments. No less than the Madras High Court had to intervene and say just because you've become a majority here doesn't mean you don't respect other sentiments. The truth is they do not respect these sentiments. For them, this is the worst of all crimes, and that is where when Tehseen says I want to push the envelope, I actually want to push the envelope to the cause of it, and Dr. Ranganathan touched upon it. The cause is they regard it as the worst of all crimes. They cannot tolerate it. For them, this itself is provocative enough. And for Mr. Yogi Adityanath, I'll tell you where Mr. Yogi Adityanath missed a beat this time. 4 months back, when we had the Ram Navami procession, he made 32 preventive arrests. Last year, it was 62 preventive arrests. And he was accused by the same Kamru Zaman of making UP a police state. When he acted, they said he's making it a police state. Now they are saying, oh, he's too soft. This should have been a law. This is a law and order issue.
This business of constantly talking about Hindu revivalism and muscularity that is constantly sort of used as the card to blame Hindus. Now, Dr. Ranganathan, what do you make of this? muscularity and all of this?
I mean, I don't know what muscular Hinduism is, if at all, and you know very well, Rahul, I've written a book on it. It is the Hindus in Hindu Rashtra that have been discriminated against constitutionally, legally, socially, educationally, and everywhere you look at it. So I don't think it is the Muslims that are the victims here, knowingly or unknowingly, and unbeknownst to them. It is the Hindus who are the victims.
No, so let me ask you, because, again, as Tehseen Poonawala and also, Kamru Chaudhary has sort of brought this up. Negligence, it's the UP Chief Minister, UP administration, that they are sort of the ones who are behind all of this. Now, how do you read this? Because we must not forget that in some states where these clashes have taken place, in fact, over the last 24, 36, 72 hours, the opposition governs. So the Chief Ministers there also must be negligent, but no one actually comes out and points a finger at those opposition Chief Ministers. Dr. Ranganathan.
No, not only that, I think the truth is, Rahul, that increasingly we are seeing Ram Navami processions, Durga Puja processions, Hanuman Jayanti, Shobha Yatras, even Garba celebrations are being attacked and stoned with impunity. And none of these incidents, incidentally, they happen across states, BJP and non-BJP, but none of them elicit any outrage from this cottage industry of activists and journalists who only highlight incidents where Muslims are the victims. So if we were to believe the goings on in Modi's Hindu Rashtra, all around us, we are seeing Darawa Musalmans from Jammu, where Darawa Musalmans are shouting from top of mosque that they will behead Nupur Tiwari, to all those who oppose Azan and Hijab, to Habli, where Darawa Musalmans are pouring onto the streets because some Hindu kid photoshopped a Bhagwa flag. And incidentally, those who were arrested and the bail was denied by NIA court are let off by the Congress government there. So is this what a Darawa Musalman is doing?
Well,
I think there is a complete whitewashing of the reality that is happening right before our eyes, Rahul.
We must apply the same yardsticks equally. I don't want to continue with this debate. There's been a very big development, viewers, but I just want to very quickly say, final words, we must apply the yardsticks absolutely without fear and favor. We can't say that one community is guiltier than the other. When it appears that another community has overreacted, then we keep quiet. That can't be. That can't be, because that really creates this whole cycle of resentments, viewers. And then they manifest themselves in this manner. I want to move on because, viewers, there has been a massive diplomatic spat between India and Canada. New Delhi has withdrawn its High Commissioner and other diplomatic staff from Canada. It's an unprecedented step. India has never done this in the context of a Western nation, specifically one that has had good equations with India over the last few years. And the step has been necessitated by a flurry of what India has described as, quote, preposterous, unquote, allegations by Canada under the stewardship of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. India has been very, very careful not to tar Canada with the brush of derision, but only Prime Minister Trudeau, making him responsible for this. The announcement withdrawing India's envoy to Canada came 24 hours after New Delhi received a diplomatic communication from Canada suggesting that the Indian High Commissioner and other diplomats are, quote, persons of interest, unquote. In other words, suspects in a matter related to an investigation in that country. Stuart Wheeler, the Canadian Charge d'Affaires here in India, said Canada has provided credible, irrefutable evidence of the ties between agents of the government of India and the murder of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil. It is time for India to live up to what it said and look into all these allegations. It is in the interest of both our countries to get to the bottom of this. Canada stands ready to cooperate, unquote. Canada, in fact, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau himself has alleged that Indian officials were involved in the murder of Khalistani terrorist Nijjar, a claim that India has categorically rejected. Before withdrawing its High Commissioner, New Delhi had issued a scathing denunciation of Canada under Trudeau. The Indian Ministry of External Affairs called the decision to treat India's diplomats as suspects as, quote, imputations, unquote, born out of a thinly veiled, quote, political agenda of the Trudeau government, which is centered around vote bank politics, unquote. The Modi government let it be known that, quote, since Prime Minister Trudeau made certain allegations in September 2023, the Canadian government has not shared a shred of evidence with the government of India, despite many requests from our side. This latest step follows interactions that have again witnessed assertions without any facts. This leaves little doubt that on the pretext of investigation, there is a deliberate strategy of smearing India for political gains, unquote. It also went on to say Canada was informed that baseless targeting of Indian High Commissioner and other diplomats was completely unacceptable. In an atmosphere of extremism and violence, the Trudeau government's actions endanger their safety. We have no faith in the current Canadian government's commitment to ensure their security. The government of India has decided to withdraw the High Commissioner and other targeted diplomats and officials. India reserves the right to take further steps in response to the Trudeau government's support for extremism, violence, and separatism against India, unquote. Clearly, New Delhi feels the time for polite conversation is over, and now that after India has taken a firm position, it may not be out of place to point out that Canada under Prime Minister Trudeau is strikingly behaving like a Western version of Pakistan. This is not without exaggeration. Consider the similarities. Like Pakistan, a famous redoubt of psychotic religious obscurantists, Canada too has become a hub for religious revanchists who plot the extermination of supposed, quote, infidels, unquote. A whole legion of hardline Sikh radicals who champion the cause of establishing a religious state in India, mythically called, quote, Khalistan, unquote, have taken up, quote, permanent residency, unquote, in not just the vast liberal wilderness of Trudeau's Canada, but also in the hallowed chambers of its parliament, viewers. And let me tell you how the state under Trudeau has become so enmeshed, almost like the state in Pakistan is enmeshed with extremists. In April 2024, Trudeau attended a Khalsa Day parade where pro-Khalistan slogans were raised. Viewers, imagine if Prime Minister Modi was attending a parade in India of Quebecers who want to secede in Canada. How do you think Mr. Trudeau would react, viewers? How do you think the United Nations would react, or America, its ally, would react? In 2022, Trudeau tied up with Jagmeet Singh, a vocal Khalistani face in Canada. Yes, viewers, Canada shielded Hardeep Nijjar even after rejection of his asylum requests. Canada sees regular parades that celebrate assassination of Indira Gandhi. Now, viewers, would we like the assassins and would-be assassins and those supporting that assassin and assassinations to be parading in India? How do you think the Americans would react to that, viewers? If Kennedy's assassins or Trump's latest would-be assassin was glorified in India, viewers, and glorified by the same people who were actually in power, sharing power. Hindu groups, viewers, have come under attack from Khalistanis under Trudeau's watch. In 2018, Canadian government removed Sikh extremism from threat assessment report after a backlash. So they actually singled it out as a major cause of concern and then redacted it, viewers, because some of their alliance partners had a problem with it. Trudeau's alliance partners. In 1985, ex-Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, the father of our friend Mr. Trudeau, ignored Indian intelligence over Kanishka bombing. In 1982, ex-Canadian PM Pierre Trudeau rejected Khalistani terrorist Talvinder Parmar's extradition to India. Viewers, therefore, the Indian government's reaction is incommensurate with its national interests, viewers. No one can say that India is being in any way the problem party. Let's open this up, and I want to get a considered view from Toronto and also from Brahmachalani. Terry Miliuski is here with us. Mr. Miliuski, this now has turned into a protracted diplomatic standoff that seems to threaten the relationship as such between India and Canada, and it's happening because one man is not in any way entertaining New Delhi's concerns about extremism and extremists who have taken shelter under his wing and are funding an insurgency in our country. And he's not doing so, he's not taking cognizance of the Indian point of view because there's an electoral calculation that is holding him back. Is it wrong for the Indian state to take this position, sir?
Well, I think that both sides have got their fair share of wrong. That's why it's a dialogue of the deaf at the moment. On the Canadian side, you're quite correct. There is a long history, but not just by the Liberals, by the way, but by the long history in Canada of pandering to and tolerating the intolerable, namely the violence and the threats of violence perpetrated by Khalistanis on Canadian soil. Need I even mention the Air India bombing of 1985? 331 completely innocent civilians slaughtered for nothing by Khalistani terrorists. Nevertheless, the author of that bombing, the mastermind of that bombing, Talwender Parmar, is still glorified in Canada as a great hero by Khalistanis. And this is a disgrace to Canada that this is allowed. It's not as easy as snapping your finger to say, okay, we must stop people exercising their freedom of speech. We must ban the flying of a Khalistan flag. We must ban people saying Khalistan Zindabad. That's not easy. That's not going to happen in a free speech country. But nevertheless, Canada could and should have gone much further to understand and to accommodate India's demands, going right back to 1982, when they asked for the extradition, the mastermind of the Air India bombing, and Pierre Trudeau, Justin's father, said no, they didn't want to upset the seats. They imagine wrongly that the seats includes that they're all Khalistanis. Of course they're not. It's only a tiny minority of the seats are Khalistanis. Now, they said it was wrong on both sides. I'm racing through this. You'll forgive me. There is some problem on the Indian side that they keep saying there's no evidence, there's no shred of evidence. Oh, yes, there is. Not what Trudeau is alleging. Indian diplomats were involved in the assassination of Hardeep Nijjar, but that Indian government employees, Indian government officials may have been involved in a plot against both Gopal Singh Panoon, the spokesman and leader of Sikhs for Justice, and Hardeep Nijjar in Canada. It was one plot. Now, look at the facts. Look at the fact that India is saying to Canada, your allegations are absurd. And then they say to the United States, who have leveled much more detailed allegations, much more disputed, saying to the United States, India is, that, oh, we take these very seriously. This is terrible. We're going to look into it. We're setting up a committee. This may simply reflect the difference in political clout between the superpower, the United States, and little old Canada. The difference suggests to me that the Indians do understand there is on display in the indictment leveled by the Americans of this alleged murder for hire plot. They are saying that the evidence is worth looking at very seriously.
No, Mr. Milewski,
but,
I remember...
But it's the same plot. So it doesn't make sense.
I beg your indulgence. I remember very clearly that the Prime Minister of Canada said that he would make it public. It's been a year since that statement was made. There has been nothing made public, number one, and nothing...
I apologize.
Nothing that is even put out in the press there, leaked to the press, which would give you an indication of what really there was. So, I'm sorry, I mean, you know, this can't be, as you said, the dialogue of the deaf, but if you make a commitment and you say, look, I've given you a stipulated time period and I'm going to go public with the material and you don't, it's clearly open to interpretation. Well, one second, let's open this up. Mr. Chileni, how do you respond to Mr. Milewski's claims here? That, oh, both sides are to blame, that both have been sort of misreading the tea leaves and so on and so forth.
Well, all this is reopening the old wounds in India over Canada's long-standing tolerance of Khalistani terrorists and extremists. India is at fault over having let Canada off the hook over the Air India twin bombings of 1985. There were two separate bombings in 1985 that targeted Air India jetliners. One bombing killed all 329 people on board. The second bombing misfired, killing two Japanese baggage handlers at Narita Airport in Tokyo. In response to those two bombings, India put no pressure on Canada to bring the perpetrators to justice. Not a single perpetrator in those bombings was brought to justice by Canada. It took Canada 2 decades to set up a commission of inquiry. So today, the same issue is haunting Canada-India relations because, like Trudeau's father, Justin Trudeau, is aiding and abetting, in a way, aiding and abetting Sikh extremist activity against India from Canadian soil. As you all know that there's very little support for Khalistan among Sikhs in India.
Yes.
The Khalistan demand is a Sikh diaspora issue. But even among the Sikh diaspora, only a small minority support the demand for Khalistan.
Yeah.
In fact, it's Canada which has become the operational base of the global Khalistan movement, of elements that glorify political violence, that actually treat, that publicly honor convicted or slain terrorists as martyrs, including Talvinder Parmar, which two separate Canadian inquiries identified as the mastermind of the Air India bombings.
Yes.
So in a way, history is repeating itself, Rahul.
Yes.
And this is the important thing to remember.
Okay.
History is repeating itself.
History is repeating itself, and this time as a bit of a farce, viewers, spun out by, unfortunately, the Prime Minister there. Yes, Sanju Verma is raising her hand, and then I want to bring in Major Arya. Very important point I want to ask of him. Yes, Sanju Verma.
You know, Rahul, first things first, I think it's an excellent decision by the Modi government / the MEA to withdraw the Indian High Commissioner to Ottawa, Mr. Sanjay Verma, recall him back, and to clearly deny the reckless and preposterous imputations and allegations made by the Canadian government in wanting to make 6 Indian diplomats, including Mr. Sanjay Verma, persons of interest. So point number 1, we've clearly told off Canada that you cannot have our diplomats being made persons of interest in Hardeep Singh Nijjar's killing that happened on the 18th of June 2023 in a parking lot in British Columbia. Point number 2 is that India is also expected to deny the accreditation to Christopher Cooter. He was supposed to be the next Canadian High Commissioner to India.
Yeah.
Remember that the position of Canadian High Commissioner to India position has been lying vacant ever since Cameron McKay left New Delhi for Canada. So that position has been lying vacant since June this year for the last 3 to 4 months. The most important point is this. I always say that the devil is in the detail. And I think the fact that the MEA's response has been so brutally frank and forthright, I think that speaks volumes about the fact that we are not taking any BS from Canada. The government of India strongly rejects preposterous imputations and ascribes them to the political agenda of the Trudeau government that is centered around vote bank politics, is what the Ministry of External Affairs has said. In 20 seconds, I want to tell you this. The latest poll rankings in terms of popularity show that Justin Trudeau's popularity has fallen from 63% last year to 28% as we speak. Justin Trudeau has been unable to control and rein in the steel workers' strike in Northern Ontario, and recently there was a federal by-election held in Toronto, and for the first time in 3 decades, Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party lost that by-election in Toronto to the Conservatives. And most importantly, there are by-elections coming up in Montreal and Quebec, and the National Dental Healthcare Program of Justin Trudeau is completely off tangent, costing
so it's political compulsion.
multi-billion dollars.
Okay,
and
so
I think
political
it is
compulsion.
To ensure that his
No.
no, let me finish. It is political compulsion. It is consolidation of the Khalistani vote bank, because he's into his 9th year of prime ministership. Next year there are general elections in Canada, and Justin Trudeau wants to
the
divide and
partner
rule.
that was propping up his government has kind of exited. So that particular individual who supports the Khalistani point of view exited recently. But I just want to bring in Major Arya. Major Arya, look, first of all, of course, the compulsion, but only certain types of countries, and we've just, there's more breaking news coming in. India has expelled 6 Canadian diplomats even as we speak. So this story is actually snowballing, viewers. The government of India has decided to expel the following 6 diplomats: Mr. Stuart Ross Wheeler, Acting High Commissioner; Mr. Patrick Herbert, Deputy High Commissioner; Ms. Mary Catherine Jolly, First Secretary; Mr. Ian Ross, David Trites, First Secretary; Mr. Adam James Tripka, First Secretary; Ms. Paula Urjuela, First Secretary. They have been asked to leave India by or before 11:59 p.m. on Saturday, October 19, 2024. So they've been given their marching orders. Expect some retaliation diplomatically from Canada, but Major, you know, is it out of place to Canada to call Canada today a sort of westernized version of what Pakistan does to India, which is harbor inimical interests?
No, absolutely. I think, Rahul, you're very right. You're comparing it to Pakistan because the mindset is absolutely the same. You know, I have 2 points to make. First of all these so-called Khalistanis, they carry Canadian passports in Canada. So let's stop calling them Khalistanis. They are Canadian citizens. You see, when you call them Khalistanis, you give Canada elbow room to say that, hey, you know, these guys are not Canadians. They're actually Khalistanis. Khalistan does not exist. That is number one. Number two, you know, Canada deployed its forces. Canada doing whatever the United States of America tells it to do. They deploy their forces in Afghanistan. They deploy their forces in Iraq. They kill civilians. And it's absolutely all right because Canada is a Western country and Canada is part of G7 and Canada can do whatever it likes. The problem is that, you know, they were supposed to put out this proof in the open a year back, like you very rightly said, and they haven't done that, which is not just open to interpretation. Anyone would say that they don't have proof. If they had it, they would have put it out in the open, and that's what I've been saying time and again. Last point that I'd like to make is that, you see, India must pass a very, very strong message to Canada, especially the government of Justin Trudeau. Shut down everything between India and Canada. Just shut it down. Withdraw everything. Shut down your embassies and tell people not to go there for further education. Get it? They have been threatened by these so-called Khalistanis. You know, Pannu said that we'll harm the Hindus who are living there.
It's true.
He's already put it out there, and they will do that.
Okay, so Mr. Chileni, how far should India go? We've already expelled 6 of their Canadian diplomats. What should India do next? Very quickly, sir, I don't have much time. Yes.
Well, the 6 Canadian diplomats that India has expelled is a response to India being forced to withdraw 6 Indian diplomats from Ottawa, including the High Commissioner.
That's true.
So this was, you know, in reprisal to the Canadian actions. But I think the challenge for India comes from the fact that behind Justin Trudeau is the Biden administration. It was the Biden administration that incited Trudeau to make his allegation against India in September last year. It was the Biden administration that provided Canada the patchy intelligence that formed the basis of Justin Trudeau's allegation against India. It was the Biden administration that unsealed an indictment against, that alleged an Indian plot against a New York-based Sikh extremist. And the allegation that the Biden administration made against India was so amateurish that an Indian operative, on the advice of the Indian government, hired a hitman to eliminate this New York-based Sikh extremist.
Yes.
This operative hired someone in the US remotely, long distance, and that hitman turned out to be an undercover US police officer.
Okay.
As if showing that Indians are so incompetent.
Yes.
The whole thing was so, the way it was presented by the Biden administration.
It's
I think
preposterous.
the real challenge for India.
It's preposterous. I need to wrap up, viewers. I need to wrap up. But all I will say is that now Trudeau's bluff has been called. He said he'd make the proof public a year ago. Now is his opportunity. Otherwise, viewers, he is actually ruining a beautiful relationship between two countries by putting his political interests first. And I don't know of many leaders who would gamble like that. I leave it at that, viewers.
At L'Oréal Group.
Zaka, big move this. Perhaps the strongest action that's been taken. And would you agree if we say that the relationship with Canada is at its all-time nadir?
Low. India has never withdrawn a Canadian High Commissioner or Indian High Commissioner in Canada ever before. So this is in that sense a very unprecedented step. And if you look at the MEA statement, it was on the basis of these baseless targeting of the Indian High Commissioner Sanjay Kumar Verma, who's been named as a person of interest. That is as good as saying that he's a suspect in a murder investigation, as well as other diplomats and officials in Canada. This was completely unacceptable to India, and therefore the Stuart Wheeler, who is the Charge d'Affaires, the highest ranking official of Canada available in Delhi at this time, was summoned to the MEA, and he was conveyed that, look, we are withdrawing our ambassador. It's a huge move, Anand, because the last time India withdrew its High Commissioner or ambassador from any country was in Pakistan. This was in 2019 after the abrogation of Article 370. Both countries had withdrawn their respective High Commissioners. Even at the height of the Devyani Khobrgade episode that was in 2013, where our diplomat had to be forcibly brought back, the High Commissioners were still very much active. The ambassadors were very much active. So recall of High Commissioners or ambassadors usually happens at a time when countries are at war with each other. So to that extent, and that too, recalling the High Commissioner of a Western country is a very unprecedented move. I think the government of India, basically the last straw was what happened in Vientiane at the ASEAN summit just a few days ago. The Prime Minister was there, and there were these reports of Justin Trudeau meeting the Prime Minister, confronting him with new facts, so on and so forth. But fact of the matter is that he made those allegations way back in September of 2023, the Prime Minister of Canada, on the floor of the Canadian Parliament. It's been over a year, and there's been no material evidence that has been provided by the Canadian authorities to substantiate the allegations made by Justin
it is
Trudeau.
very interesting because the Canadian envoy there, the CDA, Zaka, just now is on record saying that we have submitted detailed evidences to showcase the connection of the Indian High Commission with these elements. That's what they are saying. They claim we have shown detailed evidences, whereas Bharat has said that no evidence has been so far produced, and these are just baseless charges. We've been asking year on year, give us actionable intelligence, and all that's been shared by Canada has been shared with some of the other Five Eyes nations, and there's nothing that's been shown which is concrete when these allegations are made. Ambassador J.K. Tripathi is with us. Ambassador Tripathi, how would you see this big step? Zaka was saying after Pakistan, other than Pakistan, this step has not been taken with any other nation. So is this an
Yes, you are correct. But this, Canadian allegation to Indian High Commissioner there in Ottawa is completely uncalled for and completely unacceptable. No High Commissioner, not at least from India, no Indian High Commissioner or ambassador can put his reputation or his country's reputation at stake by being involved in somebody's killing. This is atrocious, and we had been shouting from the rooftop for last more than 1 year that okay, give us evidence, and now after 1 year they come up and say that here is the evidence, which is nothing. So this is, I think this is very good step by Indian government. And next will be that Canadian High Commissioner will also be issued marching orders.
Well, but what does this imply, Ambassador Tripathi? What does this mean?
No, it certainly implies deterioration of the bilateral relations.
And
because this is the first step is to downgrade the relations by recalling the ambassador or High Commissioner. So this is the first stage where Pakistan is also there. With Pakistan also, we don't have High Commissioner here. They don't have our High Commissioner there. Only CDA is one. Same thing is going to happen here. So this is just to show that look, we will not tolerate any unfounded allegation against our people just because some terrorist in your country had been killed. And that too, terrorist is not Canadian citizen. He had Canadian permanent residence, not Canadian citizenship. And he was involved in it is a well-known secret that the Sikh people, extremist people, they are there in the government and they are there targeting Indian government and Indian officials. And despite this, Canadian government didn't do anything, whereas Article 5 of Canadian Constitution clearly says that Canada has to any
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. We begin with war, but this one is diplomatic. It's India versus Canada. India has downgraded ties with Canada and is pulling out its diplomats. It has also called out Justin Trudeau's terror appeasement. We'll tell you what triggered this and where it is heading. Meanwhile, West Asia is bracing for a bigger war. The US is sending troops to Israel and deploying its THAAD missile defense system. Meanwhile, Israel is targeting UN peacekeepers in Lebanon, and that poses a challenge for India because we have 900 soldiers deployed there. New Delhi will have to balance its relationship with Israel and the interests and safety of its soldiers. In the east, China is back to warmongering with what it calls punishment drills around Taiwan. Tensions soar in the Korean peninsula too. Pyongyang says it is ready to strike the south. In the US, was there a third assassination attempt on Donald Trump? The local police and the Secret Service are divided on the subject. Elon Musk's SpaceX leaps into uncharted territory. We'll tell you why the latest rocket launch is such a big deal. Pakistan is gearing up to host the SCO summit tomorrow. India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar will be there. We'll tell you what to expect. And is there life on Jupiter's moon? A new investigation is making waves. All this and more coming up. The headlines first.